Battle Through the Heavens. Chapter 183. Xiao Yan saves mercenaries from a deadly snake people ambush. The salt stings his cracked lips as the iron weight pulls at his spine. But the sudden hiss from the dunes snaps his vision into a freezing edge. He exhales dry heat, letting the dark ruler slide into his palm with a sharp scrape. As scales glisten under the sun, he steps into the friction, turning 10 days of grit into a silent, explosive strike.
The shirtless youth appeared suddenly, catching both sides off guard. The mercenaries quickly regained their composure. Since he was human, they trusted he would not side with the snake people. The snake people were furious at the uninvited guest. Their slit-like eyes glared at Xiao Yan. Without a word, the leader waved his hand. 2 5-star Dou Qi warriors on his flanks lashed their tails and hissed, lunging at Xiao Yan with bared fangs.
Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes. A look of disdain crossed his face. He slowly tightened his grip on the heavy Xuan ruler and stepped forward. His body blurred, shifting from stillness to explosive motion. The onlookers saw him streak past the 2 snake people like a bolt of lightning. A heavy thud echoed twice. Xiao Yan came to a sudden halt past his enemies. The 2 snake people froze as if struck by a massive weight. Their bodies shuddered violently before they sprayed blood from their mouths.
Xiao Yan exhaled and adjusted his grip on the black ruler. Behind him, the 2 attackers flew 10 meters through the air. They hit the sand hard, broken and dying. The entire exchange lasted less than 10 seconds. The mercenaries stood with their mouths hanging open. They stared at the back of the young man, unable to believe such a slim frame contained such terrifying power. Shu Lan bit her lip and watched Xiao Yan swat the warriors aside like flies. One of the men nearby shouted her name in relief. Dan Zi ran down the sand dune toward them, gasping for breath. He avoided the snake people and rushed to the mercenaries. Shu Lan barked at him, asking why he had not returned to Rock Desert City for reinforcements. Dan Zi chuckled nervously and pointed at Xiao Yan. He called Xiao Yan their savior. Shu Lan frowned. She asked if Xiao Yan was part of the Motier mercenary company. She wondered what Dan Zi had promised him in exchange for help. Dan Zi admitted he barely knew the youth. He had met him by chance and asked him to deliver a message. Xiao Yan had ignored him at first, but when Dan Zi mentioned the Motier mercenary company, Xiao Yan's attitude changed instantly. He had even given Dan Zi a pill to heal his wounds. Shu Lan wiped sweat from her forehead. Her movements were naturally graceful, drawing lecherous stares from the remaining snake people. She wondered if Xiao Yan was an old friend of their company leaders. Judging by his speed, she guessed he was at least an 8-star Dou Qi. Dan Zi shook his head, unsure of the boy's origins, but noted that Xiao Yan wouldn't have risked his life if he had bad intentions. Shui Lan remained worried. 3 9-star Dou Qi warriors remained among the snake people. She feared Xiao Yan had walked into a trap. Danzi tried to reassure her, arguing that Xiao Yan must have a plan if he was willing to step into the fray. Shui Lan asked if Danzi thought the boy was a Dou Qi. Danzi went quiet. Xiao Yan looked barely 20 years old. A Dou Qi at that age seemed impossible. The leader of the snake people watched his subordinates die. His pupils contracted into tiny points. He warned Xiao Yan that offending the snake people in the Tagore Desert was a death sentence. Xiao Yan only smiled and gripped his ruler tighter. The leader offered Xiao Yan a chance to walk away. Xiao Yan simply shook his head and gave a firm refusal. The leader's face twisted with killing intent. He ordered his men to kill the boy and capture the woman alive for their pleasure. The surrounding snake people hissed and raised their poisoned spears. They swarmed Xiao Yan from all sides. Shui Lan tried to lead the able-bodied mercenaries into the fight, but Xiao Yan told them to stay back. He didn't want them getting in his way. Shui Lan stopped in her tracks, insulted by his bluntness. She crossed her arms and glared at him, thinking him an arrogant child.
Her anger didn't last long. It was quickly replaced by pure shock. Xiao Yan stood still as purple Dou Qi surged from his body. The energy thickened until it formed a solid layer over his skin. Faint purple flames flickered around him. The mercenaries gasped. Xiao Yan had manifested a Dou Qi shroud. He was indeed a Dou Qi. Dan Zi looked like he had seen a ghost. He noted that their own company leaders were only 5-star Dou Qi, yet this youth had reached the same rank at such a young age.
The snake people wavered. They knew the difference between a Doujie and a Dou Qi was a massive chasm. Without high-level techniques, they stood no chance. Xiao Yan didn't give them time to think. He stomped the ground, causing a small explosion of sand, and launched himself forward. He appeared before a 9-star Doujie instantly. The heavy Xuan ruler smashed into the warrior's chest. Bones snapped and organs ruptured. The snake person flew through the air like a rag doll and vanished into the dunes. Xiao Yan spun, his ruler acting like the scythe of a reaper. He mowed down the lower-ranked warriors before they could even scream. The mercenaries watched in awe. Xiao Yan made the elite snake people look like children. The leader and the last 9-star warrior charged Xiao Yan together. Their spears were coated in a glowing red toxin. They moved in a coordinated pincer maneuver. Xiao Yan swung his ruler behind his back, blocking both spears with a heavy clang. The two snake people suddenly opened their mouths and spat clouds of green poison at his face. Xuan screamed a warning. Xiao Yan's purple Dou Qi shroud flared. The green gas vanished the moment it touched the purple flames, burnt into nothingness. Xiao Yan stepped through the smoke and swung his ruler at the leader's head. The leader slithered backward, barely avoiding the blow. He tried to retreat further, but a strange suction force erupted from Xiao Yan's palm. The leader was pulled back toward him, flailing in the air. Xiao Yan leaped up like a hunting eagle and brought the ruler down. A sickening crunch echoed as the leader's skull was crushed. His body fell into a sandpit and was buried. The final warrior turned to flee, but Xiao Yan spun and hurled the heavy Xuan ruler. The black blade streaked across the sky and impaled the snake person through the neck, pinning him to the desert floor. Xiao Yan panted for a moment before retrieving his weapon. He wiped the blood from the ruler and strapped it to his back. He walked toward the stunned mercenaries.
He asked if they were all right. Shui Lan stared at his bare chest. Being a desert mercenary, she wasn't shy like a noble lady. She introduced herself as a squad leader of the Mo-Ti Mercenary Company. Xiao Yan introduced himself simply. Shui Lan found the name familiar, but couldn't place it. She invited him to Rock Desert City so the company could repay the debt. Xiao Yan agreed.
He was eager to see his two older brothers. In the Xiao family, only his father, his brothers, and Shuner truly cared for him. Thinking of Shuner made his heart ache with a sudden fierce longing. He had spent a year in bitter training. He almost felt like quitting and running to Jianan Academy to see her. He shook the thought away. He knew she came from a mysterious background with high-level techniques. He needed to be stronger to stand beside her.
Shu Lan noticed his distracted expression and asked if he had been poisoned. Xiao Yan snapped back to reality and apologized. They prepared to move out. A mercenary brought a carriage around, which was loaded with the carcasses of 2 magical beasts they had hunted earlier. Shu Lan sent a messenger ahead to notify the leaders.
As Xiao Yan walked toward the city, Shui Lan watched his back. She whispered to Danzi that Xiao Yan looked remarkably like their company leaders. She suddenly remembered the leaders mentioning a younger brother named Xiao Yan. Her eyes widened in realization as the truth finally clicked.